Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Chicago. Good morning, San Diego, and other cities and countries who are listening to our show here in Be Heard. My name is Rita Burak. I am here at the studio at Sungates Center, and I'd like to introduce my co-host, Svetlana Burak, who is an integrative nutrition health coach and thyroid wellness specialist. She works with people with thyroid disorders who would like to attract their ideal weight, more energy, and more joy into their life. Good morning, Svetlana.
Good morning, Rita, and good morning, everyone. I'm so excited to be here with you during our third show. Thank you, Rita, my beautiful co-host. Let me introduce Rita to you as well. She is a certified holistic health coach and graduate of Institute for Integrative Nutrition, a member of American Association of Drugless Practitioners, certified Reiki practitioner, a co-founder of Sungates Wellness Center in Wheeling, Illinois, and a guide to Spiritual Hospital of John of God in Apajania, Brazil. Oh, good morning.
Thank you. Now we're ready to go.
We're going to have a really awesome topic today, and I'm really psyched to talk about this because it's one of my favorite topics.
Super.
And that's thyroid health and diets and foods. So the reason I'm psyched about it is because I've been there. I've been through this myself, learned the hoops, and now I'm teaching others. The information we share is, research-based, science-based, experience-based, or really good stuff that we're excited to share with you.
Absolutely. Thank you. That sounds awesome. So where do we start?
Well, first of all, let's just, get this large elephant in the room. Let's acknowledge it. We're going to talk about diets. And
Yes.
diets is a four-letter word. Diet is a four-letter word.
It is.
It's got a huge taboo behind it. So, as I think of diets, I think of something negative. And it's probably because we know that diets in general, and when it comes to losing weight, we're thinking diets and losing weight, the purpose of diet to lose weight does not work. It does not work in the long term, right? Because dieting means you try something different, something new for a period of time, and then you stop. And then, of course, most of the people who do that, they gain all the weight back. However, in our conversation, we're talking about diets in a different
perspective, right?
In a different manner. We're talking about diets for repairing and healing and regenerating our bodies and thyroid. So we're not necessarily doing this to lose weight, although that might be a very nice side effect, right?
Right. And I don't even like the word lose, because when we lose something, we want to get back. There is better words like drop, maybe, weight. But again, we're not talking about regulating our weight. We are talking about healing and healing diets.
Right.
So yes, go ahead.
So the question is, so what's the best diet? Is there a best diet for thyroid wellness, thyroid health? And my personal opinion, and based on my experience and my research, is no, there isn't one best diet. Just like we talked last time, there isn't one best way of eating for everyone in general. We are all individuals that are very different in terms of our genetic makeup, where we're born, where we currently live, our body constitution, right? Rita.
Right.
So even when it comes to thyroid wellness and thyroid balance, there is no one diet that's best for everyone.
Right, exactly. And I also feel that changing diet like in one day or one night, overnight, is also not good, and it's hard to implement. the small gradual changes are the best. Are you in the same way? Did you feel it for yourself?
Yeah, very good point. Well, I'm just thinking about when we started working together. That was
Right.
my journey of changing my diet, and it was overwhelming. I mean, though I was making small steps, like you're saying, one step at a time.
Mm-hmm.
So I cannot even imagine what it would be like if I attempted to overhaul everything at the same time. I I think it would be a recipe for a disaster. I would be like
Right.
exhausted in a couple of days and just give up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Is that kind of what you think?
Yeah, that's how I feel and how I recommend to my clients and people I work with. Just very slow and see how you feel, adapt to different food the new food that you introduced, and then you can kind of drop or go away from those that are not working for you anymore, especially the processed food that we all trying to get rid of.
Yes, exactly. Because like one person's food that is of benefit to that person could be poison to another person.
Right, right.
Like, even things like, nuts, for example. Some people do really well with having nuts. I
Mhm.
do okay with having nuts. I don't have any reactions, but it's also pretty well known that a lot of people with thyroid disease and autoimmune conditions don't do well with nuts.
Mhm.
They might do better with soaked nuts, for example, or might do better without any nuts at all. So we kind of have to, in a way, experiment. Um, yeah, and so there isn't one best diet. However, there are some universal kind of approaches, well-known recommendations,
Right.
strong, powerful recommendations that can make a big difference
And
in
I
diet.
think the most important is to try start on anti-inflammatory foods,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah,
So, what are those that you would recommend?
right.
I mean, you using yourself, and of course, recommend your clients. And
Yes, very good question. Before we get to that, I want to
okay,
mention one thing.
sure.
Before we get into like, the what and what, to remove or what to add, I want to mention about the why. Like,
Hmm.
why are we doing this? And what's the whole deal?
Okay,
What are we doing? What's the
sounds
purpose?
good. Mm-hmm.
So, in order to answer that question, I think one must understand the mechanism behind the thyroid disorder. So, why do thyroid disorders develop? What's the trigger? And so here's what they have found. The scientists found they've identified three reasons that must be in place, three triggers that must be in place to trigger autoimmune condition like Hashimoto's,
Mm-hmm.
Graves, for example,
Mm-hmm.
which then affects our thyroid wellness. So number one, that's genetic component. So pretty much everyone with Hashimoto's has some kind of a genetic predisposition, yeah, to thyroid disease. So we have a weak link. Now, it doesn't mean that everyone who has that genetic predisposition is going to develop thyroid illness, but it's there. So we need to be aware of it and need to be careful of it. So it's one thing is the genetic predisposition. Number two, there is a trigger, some kind of event. It could be an exposure to toxins, a bacterial or viral infection. It could be, even like psychological trauma or stress.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It could be eating foods that we're sensitive to. So there's a bunch of things.
Eating food that you're sensitive to for a long period of time, not
Yes,
just overnight, right?
yes, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And talk about that too, about how these sensitivities develop, because that's important to know.
Yeah, and eating those food and not paying attention that your stomach, your gut is not taking it anymore, but you still like it and you still uh, eat those foods because everybody eat them and we want them too, right? And
Yeah,
it create an addiction.
yes, yes. So not making that connection
Mm-hmm.
is and our symptoms. Yeah. So that's number 2. And the third reason is, it's, okay. 1 second. I am drawing a little blank here.
Oh, I guess.
Okay, here you go. Okay, it's creating a leaky gut or gut permeability. And that happens for several reasons. It could be antibiotics that we take when we're, either little or for, a long period of time. It could be, actually could be created from eating those foods that we're sensitive or intolerant to for a long period.
Right. Especially like gluten.
Especially gluten, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So then we have those 3 things in place, and that's a perfect storm for creating autoimmune condition. And so now that we know these triggers, we can do something about it. Well, except for genetic stuff.
Exactly. When we realized and we're ready to go and meet either ourselves to do research or meet someone who done it before or work with the health coach.
Exactly. Yes.
That's a step. Mm-hmm.
Yes. So once we recognize what's going on, now we can create a plan, right? Of trying
Okay.
to put our body back in balance.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, like we started talking about, number 1 thing is to create anti-inflammatory environment in our bodies. So remove all the foods that create inflammation. So for me, for example, the first thing I did was I removed all the gluten. Actually, there's lots of information about gluten out there.
And we're gonna talk about it next time.
Yes, we're gonna get really in depth about that next time. But there's lots. Basically, let me just tell you really quickly. There's lots of information about gluten and how specifically how it triggers and creates inflammation in the case of Hashimoto's and Graves' and autoimmune conditions in general.
Mm-hmm.
Other inflammatory foods that we want to be aware of are anything processed. So anything that's been made in the lab, right?
Anything in boxes that's already been get together and processed for a long period of time so they can live longer on a shelf.
Right.
And not get bad. So.
Yeah.
And also refined carbohydrates. Those are food that we would try to avoid, right? And gluten, one of them. Actually, that's part of the gluten, not gluten diet.
Right. So refined carbohydrates, also things like artificial sweeteners, artificial colorings, oils that have been highly processed. So, for example, canola oil, highly processed. Really, there is really no such crop as canola that grows.
Right, exactly. There is no plant, right?
Yeah, so they take a seed from a plant, I think it's called rapeseed, and they process it to create this oil, canola oil. Oils like sunflower oil, safflower oil, they're also highly processed. Anything that says vegetable oil, highly processed. So it creates inflammation in our body and also affects the ratio of omega-6 and omega-3 fatty acids. I'm sure you heard about omega-3s, right? Like, the fish oil, it's very, very important for our bodies. So eating those oils really messes up the ratio. And we want to have just the right ratio to keep the inflammatory response down in our body.
Exactly. Let me just say to our listeners that they can always ask us a question even after the program. Send us emails, and our emails can be found or even on the Facebook, and our emails can be found in the recording. on YouTube or on our websites, which is sungatescenter.com or healthybits, right? .com? My Health.
BEET.com. Mm-hmm.
So any questions about anti-inflammatory diet or Hashimoto diet or whatever we talk about today, or maybe some questions we want us to answer next time, will be good to send.
Yes, please do send your questions. Thank you. And so the stuff I'm talking about, it doesn't only apply to Hashimoto's and Graves and autoimmune. It does apply to those who have thyroid disease without autoimmunity involved.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
Right.
the next purpose, the next reason why we want to introduce this diet that supports balance is to support thyroid balance specifically, is to stabilize our blood sugar levels.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's actually a real huge connection between blood sugar levels and our thyroid wellness. This is how it works. So when we eat foods that are high in sugar or high in glycemic index, so that's processed carbohydrates, that even includes fruits that are high in glycemic index, like bananas. I know they're healthy in moderation, but we're talking about, having an imbalance in the body already, then we need to be aware of those foods. So when we're eating those foods, it creates insulin imbalance and insulin resistance, which then affects our adrenals. Adrenals are these little organs that sit on top of our
Kidney.
kidneys,
Mm-hmm.
and they're one of their major functions is to regulate our stress levels.
Cortisol.
Cortisol, right. Mm-hmm. And when we eat foods that are high in sugar or high in glycemic index, it affects our adrenals, and adrenals in turn affect our thyroid. They're closely related. Adrenals,
Because all these organs are part of our endocrine system, and everything is connected in our body.
yes,
So.
everything. Yeah, it's like a domino effect, right?
Mm-hmm.
If
Mm-hmm.
one thing falls, it takes everything else down with it.
Yes.
So,
Very important. Yes.
so do you have any tips on eating foods and stabilizing blood sugar levels, or eating foods, choosing foods that are low in glycemic index, Rita?
Right, of course. First of all, we should really get rid of all the sugary food, all the pies, anything baked that we can buy in a store. And there is so much recipe that we can actually use without the sugar. And they're amazing and they're delicious. Actually, I tried something new this weekend, which was made surprisingly. It was surprisingly good, but in the first look, it seems like ingredients are not going together at all. So it was zucchini, shredded zucchini, cacao powder. Um, well, it was good. It was natural sugar substitute. I use actually stevia, the nectar, or it can be maple syrup or even honey. But I think somebody who created this recipe was not thinking well, because honey cannot be actually baked or put in a high temperature. So yeah. So we have to really, that's another point. When we use somebody else's recipe, really pay attention to things and ingredients that might not be working properly. And they always can be substituted. So, and it was the egg and no flour at all. I guess I'll share the full recipe online on the Facebook somewhere else. But the point is, it was baked for about 30 minutes, all this, and shredded zucchini, of course, and it was heaven. It was heaven. It was so good.
It doesn't sound like a natural combination to put
Exactly.
together, but hey,
Yeah.
sounds
And
creative.
it's gluten-free
Yeah. And there is
and
no flour.
sugar-free. Yeah.
There's no flour. That's huge. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now, beware of gluten-free labels.
Right.
Just because it says gluten-free does not mean it's good for you. It could be inflammatory still because of those processed flours. Not in this case, because there was no flour you mentioned, right?
Yeah, you're talking about labeled foods that we can buy in a store.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that when I started with gluten-free diet, I was looking for anything that said gluten-free,
Uh-huh.
on a box.
Right.
And that was a big mistake because real healthy gluten-free food is not going to have that label. Like, okay, watermelon doesn't have gluten-free label, does it? Broccoli doesn't have gluten-free label. Nuts don't have gluten-free. It's naturally gluten-free. It doesn't need that label. But mistake that I made, and I know a lot of beginner folks make, is that they look for gluten-free labels.
Right.
So,
Right. When we use more real natural ingredients that grow from the soil, then there is no need to look for any labels. So what other foods we should really go after to follow this diet for to heal a Hashimoto or any thyroid disease or anything? Let's start introduce those.
hmm.
Uh,
Well, a few more things I want to mention.
right, sure.
The diet. So we're, reducing inflammation. We're stabilizing blood sugar levels. We want to reduce autoimmune attack.
Okay,
And we can
very
go
important.
deeper into that when we talk about gluten. And the next point is repaired gut lining. So let's go a little bit deeper into
Okay,
that.
let's do that.
So as we talked, one of the main reasons for creating this perfect storm that triggers autoimmunity is gut permeability, intestinal permeability. So, and this is how it works in the body. So if you can imagine our stomach, right? And our stomach is lined with a protective barrier from the inside.
Mm-hmm.
Just imagine, let's say it's a cheesecloth that
Mm-hmm.
it's covered with cheesecloth. And the purpose of this cheesecloth lining is to keep out all the stuff that doesn't belong. Keep it out keep it inside the gut, right?
Right.
So the cheesecloth is going to only let the nutrients out that have been processed from the foods. Only finely processed food is going to get through the cheesecloth into the body, then out to our organs and tissues and blood, and build our body from the minerals and nutrients that we, from the food that we consumed. When we eat foods that we're sensitive to, like, for example, gluten, it creates a condition where it damages that
The
lining,
clock. Okay. Mm-hmm.
damages that cheesecloth. It creates holes in there.
I like this kind of.
Yes, so this is exactly what's happening
Mm-hmm.
actually, and you can actually test it. The test is called zonulin. You can test zonulin, and it's an enzyme that actually creates these
Mm-hmm.
holes in the cheesecloth. So every time we have gluten, like for example, you have bagel in the morning, right?
Mm-hmm.
It rips the cheesecloth. Now it actually heals back for the most people,
Uh-huh.
but we keep on doing it over and over and over and over again, and eventually it doesn't heal. And then it creates these holes. And then what happens? The food that hasn't been fully digested leaks out from the gut into our body.
Oh.
And then our body sees that undigested food and says, what is this? It doesn't belong here. Let's destroy it. Let's attack. And it launches an attack, autoimmune attack. And that's how we create antibodies to foods and create food sensitivities. So I don't know if anybody has ever taken food sensitivity test. I have.
I didn't.
You haven't?
No?
Well, some people, they get the test and then they realize they're sensitive to like all the foods they eat.
Oh my God.
And they're like, okay, what do I do now? Well, that's actually not all the foods, but a lot,
Right.
maybe almost all the foods. So that's a sign that they have a leaky gut, impaired gut, because our body has created antibodies to attack these particles that have leaked out from the gut that has these holes in there. So the main thing, one of the big things in repairing our autoimmunity and thyroid wellness and thyroid balance is to seal the leaky gut. And there's a whole protocol on how to do this, what foods to add, what foods to remove, and we can talk about that later as well. And one more thing, actually, this is probably not the final thing, but I just want to mention liver health is
Right.
another big piece in repairing.
It's
Or
very interesting. You talked about liver repair. I'm going to have a conversation tomorrow with astrologer, with Vedic astrologer, who is going to talk about when is a good time astrologically to do the detox or clean your body or even liver detox. It might be different for everybody based on their astrology map. Well, but in general, there is a general recommendations, of course, for everybody.
that's so interesting.
The best time for cleansing the liver is spring, right?
Yes. And actually, that is something that I do in my practice. I do have seasonal cleanses that I do.
Mm-hmm.
Cleanse is the liver cleanse. It's a tough one
Oh
because
yeah,
some of us have clogged livers if we're not really careful.
right.
Yeah, livers get clogged from toxins, from stress, from foods we eat, from like water and air we breathe. We're surrounded. We live in a toxic world. So liver is so important in processing the hormones out and removing the hormones, the excess hormones, and removing the toxins. And when the liver is clogged, it makes it very difficult to repair thyroid.
Yeah, I just wanted to remind maybe someone who just get on our show that we are talking about Hashimoto diet, and anti-inflammatory food, the diet overall, and now we're getting into more into um, real food and what should we eat or not to eat. Of course, it's personal. I think food and eating is very personal thing. That's how we should feel and know our body, but there are also general recommendations, which we're going to talk about now.
Yes.
Yes,
Thank you for
yes.
summarizing this. So let's talk about some things to add and some things to remove, because we want to remove things that cause inflammation, gut damage. We want to add things too, because we want the nutrients that repair, that heal. Sometimes actually thyroid imbalance is caused by nutrient deficiencies too, like selenium or zinc. There's a bunch of nutrients that are really important for thyroid balance. So we want to be conscious of those.
Right. And I also just wanted to point out that even the healthy food, they should be in moderations, because eating too much kale or too much bok choy or even broccoli can cause damage to our thyroid and other damages. So everything in moderation and really, really listening to your body.
Yes. You just mentioned cruciferous.
Right, exactly. That's the
Ah,
food I am thinking about, all of them.
yeah. That's a whole other topic, big topic to talk about next time.
Okay,
That's
sounds
important,
good.
right? Because it's thyroid related as well.
Mm-hmm.
Conscious of those and keeping those in balance. is good.
Yeah, sometimes when I start working with someone and talking about greens on one or first, second sessions, and people are just feeling that, oh, kale is everything I'm gonna eat in the morning, in smoothies, during the day, as a uh, in the lunch, on lunch, in dinner, so there with garlic or onion, and so everything about kale.
Yeah,
Just yeah, there's just a precaution that it's not that good.
that's such a good point. Everything in moderation and in balance. So,
Yeah,
even yeah, like you said, vegetables. You don't want to just have kale. You want to have a rainbow
exactly. Yeah, I
color
love that.
on your plate because each color actually has specific nutrients that is um, that is specific to that particular family of colors.
Mm-hmm. Love colors.
So one thing that I like to teach my clients when I do food shopping store tours is to
Uh-huh.
look for a rainbow in their shopping cart. Create a rainbow. Like sometimes it's hard to decide what to buy because there's so much, right? So many choices.
Right.
So it's easier when you're like a little bit of red, a little bit of green, purple and yellow and white. And
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
so we're talking about adding foods, right? What else?
Yes, we're talking about adding good foods to our diet. So I guess uh, celery is one of the foods that has lots of benefits to our diet. And again, it's very important to have organic celery, not just any celery, because that one of the foods that one of the 12 that should be both organic, organic, and it's excellent source of potassium, as well as lots of vitamins and antioxidants.
Hmm.
Beets. Let's talk about beets.
Yeah,
That's the food that represents you.
it's funny. I used to hate these.
You did?
Can you believe that? I like them now. I like them now. I have
Mhm.
to, right? It's my last name.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's talk.
How do you eat your beets if you do?
Uh, yeah, well, I can bake them.
Mm-hmm.
Easy to make. Just put them in the oven and let them bake for 40 minutes, I think. And then just the skin comes off so easily. And then you just chop them up, put them in your salads, add them to your main dishes. You can eat them raw.
Raw, yes.
Yeah.
Raw is good too.
Raw is
Of course.
good. You can juice them, right?
Soup.
Ooh, you
Ooh.
know what I'm thinking about, right?
Yes. So yeah. Now is the season for the berries. I think blueberry, one of the berries that needs to be consumed as much as possible, and I don't think you can overload on blueberries, and they also have lots of benefits.
Yeah, super powerful antioxidants. Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's like one of the superfoods for sure.
Yeah, yeah. And while it's in the season, I really big fan of a seasonal eating. That's why I'm talking about this. So, what else? What else would we recommend? I
Mm-hmm.
think let's touch base on the bone broth.
Yes.
Yes.
So remember we talked about healing leaky gut.
Mm-hmm.
Adding bone broth is actually one of the requirements. One of the things that is really powerful in sealing those little holes that we create by eating foods that we're sensitive to, or intolerant to, or things like gluten, processed foods. So bone broth is not very difficult to make. There's so many recipes out there. Um, you don't need a lot of ingredients. You just throw them into the pot and let it cook for a few hours. There's actually a few different recipes. There's some bone broths that you can cook, and they're done in a couple of hours. But some you can make
Longer hours, like 6 or even overnight.
yes.
Yeah.
And the longer you cook, the more of the
It creates more jello.
The gel, the collagen and the powerful nutrients inside the bone have a chance to come out the longer you cook it.
Right. There are lots of science behind it and lots of information and sources about broth bone. Another good addition to the diet that I love personally, it's chia seeds. And as we talked about balance between omega-3 omega-6, chia seeds has a perfect balance, and it's so easy. Chia seeds, not smoothie. They are good. They're good in a smoothie, but also what the word pudding. Yes, of course. They have to be soaked in almond milk or hemp milk or even in water. And in the morning, the perfect food to add blueberries, cinnamon. Cinnamon, by the way, is a great thing to balance the sugar level.
Yeah.
Well-known things. Also flax seeds. When I do my smoothie in the morning, I put so many things in there that's even hard to. I mean, like takes long time to introduce, but those are good things. Also, some spices like turmeric, right? We use turmeric a lot.
Do you use turmeric fresh root, or do you use the powder, dried powder?
Well, depends if I found a good source of the turmeric, the root. That's the best thing we can do. But we can also use powder.
Yes. And then I know you're really fond of Ayurveda. So is there anything that Ayurveda has to say about foods? I think you may have mentioned some spices, right? Like cinnamon or turmeric. Is there anything else that you can think of from Ayurveda perspective?
Yeah, the ginger is also very anti-inflammatory. I think turmeric and ginger are the best thing that can help to remove those conditions. Eating regularly. Actually, ginger, talking about summer in seasonal spices, ginger is a warm spice, so it's better consumed in winter time. But again, in moderation, that's okay in the summer too. So actually, salmon is a good source of omega-3, omega-6. But again, we should do it just maybe once a week or even less, and find a good salmon. Even though there's so many articles online that salmon is not that good for us anymore. But well, I guess we can find poison in anything.
That's true. Everything is bad for us all of a sudden, right?
Yes, exactly.
And fermented foods. That's another really powerful way to repair the gut lining. So thinking about things like sauerkraut, pickles, kimchi, miso soup made from brown rice or made from chickpeas, because I personally try to stay away from soy for thyroid wellness, and we can talk about soy later, by the way. But yeah, there's miso soup that's made from things other than soy. Some people make their own probiotic foods. I like to do that at home myself, make my own sauerkraut. Water kefir. You can make water kefir from water. Yeah. Coconut water kefir, if you can make from coconut water. It's really yummy and bubbly. Actually, delicious beverage. Really refreshing in summer. So when you are looking for probiotic foods at a store, make sure you buy them from a refrigerated section, because if you're buying them from a shelf, they're not really truly probiotic. They're not really fermented. They probably have vinegar, which you don't want in anything that has probiotics. So yeah, look for something that's in a refrigerated section without vinegar.
Mm-hmm.
And it also helps when you see labels say something like live cultures. That's another clue that it's been fermented, like really fermented, and it has live cultures.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sounds good. I think we covered most of the things that we were going to. And next time we'll talk more in details about gluten, and maybe we'll go deeper into liver cleans, what's recommended, how we can do it. And let's
We can talk about foods. Oh, we did talk about some of the foods to remove, but there's a few other things we can mention. Maybe we can even talk about there's actually specific diets that you can follow and have very specific rules of what to eat and what not to eat. Not everybody has to do that. Not everybody has to go to that restrictive degree. But we can talk about that next time.
yes, right. Sounds good. And also, just want to mention once again that you can send us your questions to our emails, which would be found on our website, myhealthbeats.com, right? For Svetlana.
myhealthbeat.com.
And sungatescenter.com. And also on Facebook, and well, on YouTube also there is a possibility. We would love to hear from you. We would love to hear your feedback and have your questions, which we can answer next time or another the following programs. Yeah, thank you very much, everybody who listened to us, and thank you, Svetlana, for such an amazing and deep information on inflammatory diets. And I guess we'll see you next time.
Yes, thank you for being here with us. Thank you, Rita. Have a beautiful day.
Thank you. Till next Monday,
Till next
same time.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.